Hey guys, Stephanie here with the Aeroponic Tower channel, and today I wanted to talk herbs you can grow on your aeroponic tower garden or in any hydroponic system that you may be growing in. This is not, of course, going to be a complete exhaustive list, but I do have a lot of things that are going to be going in the herb family, and I have a lot of herbs growing on the tower now, so I thought we would just dive in to some of the things I'm growing. I will share my thoughts and experience with those, why I'm growing them, and hopefully it will inspire you on some different herbs and things you can be growing in your aeroponic tower. So let's take a closer look at what I have going on my towers now, and then we'll chat about what's about to go in. So lately the rain is just been coming down really hard, and it's getting cloudy again, but I want to dive in and just really share some things that I have found about growing herbs on a tower, some herbs I choose not to grow on a tower, and just my thoughts in general about the things I have been growing. This one right here is chamomile, and chamomile we love for teas, and I absolutely love growing chamomile on the tower gardens. Reason being, it's kind of difficult to harvest chamomile. You have to come when the flowers are right, and the flowers that are right are just kind of are like this one here. They're open, they're not past open where the petals are going behind them, although I still use some of those too. And having to bend over when this is growing on the ground is a lot of work. And on the tower, I can come out in the morning and just stroll around with my coffee, and I bring a little basket, and these smell so amazing, and I'm able to just casually pop these off every single day. So over the course of the last month, I have been able to collect quite a lot of chamomile for our teas and things. So if you wanted to grow, let's say, a year's supply, you would just have to do the math on what that looks like for your family. I have 3 of these, and I have found that's a lot of chamomile. It's actually more than I care to harvest, because any more than that, and it's just so much work. So I definitely love growing chamomile on the towers. Okay, I have to lean really high for this one. This one's a little bit higher up, and this is growing out of my Baby Greens extension kit, and this is Calendula. And I have, I believe, 3 or 4 of these plants, and it's the same as the chamomile. It opens, and you want to get the flowers when they look like this and nice and open, and I just come out, and whichever flowers are open, I take them inside, I put them on a tray to dry, and we use these for our skincare. You can also use them in teas, great for stomach issues and things like that. And so this is a flex tower, and I have a Baby Greens extension kit on the top. It's actually pretty messy right now, so I'm going through some transitions, so I have some new seedlings I'm going to be showing you guys, and a lot of those will be going on this tower and some things. But I also still have quite a few herbs growing here, and I find the herbs do great in the Baby Greens section depending on what the herb is. Calendula is doing great. It kind of drapes down. It seems to be happy here. It's not overshading too many things because I've got larger kale and things growing out of the bottom of that. There's some kale here. But herbs on this tower, I have 2 calendula plants. I have basil up at the top. I have large leaf parsley. So this is the large leaf Italian parsley. I have curly leaf parsley tucked in here, my absolute favorite. I have the chamomile on the other side. More basil towards the back here. And then some more parsley tucked into different grow ports on the other side of this baby extension kit. Those are good examples of herbs that do well on the Baby Greens extension kit. This parsley here is actually the larger version. This is that large leaf parsley. This one I don't typically do in the Baby Greens extension kit. This would be the exception just because it can get so big. I have found it does a little bit better. Typically when I'm growing parsley and things in the baby greens extension kit. I'm eating off of them a lot, and then I'm just going to take it out at some point and start over. I'm not cutting the whole thing and letting it grow back. I'm just coming and picking at it, and eventually I'll be able to tell that it's not thriving. It just starts to look a little bit worn out and tired, and I'll replace it with another one. If I grow parsley or this Italian parsley in a grow port, I'll do the same. I'll eat off of these herbs as I need them, and then at about the 4-month mark, maybe 5 with parsley's fine, depending on your climate. And that's a rough date. That kind of depends on your growing zone and how hot it is and things like that. But I find there is a time when it's best to just harvest all my parsley, pull it out, and start over. I have tried to cut it and let it grow back, and it will grow back, but it took a really long time and the texture got kind of weird. So I just constantly start parsley seeds. I start my parsley seeds about once a month, just so that I constantly have parsley, because I love it so much. It's a big part of my diet. The calendula, I plan for these to just be seasonal. So I put them in 2 months ago. They've started blooming about 3 weeks ago. I will just continue to harvest these blooms every single day. I come out with my coffee, I harvest my chamomile, harvest the calendula, put them in a place to dry inside the house, and when these burn out, I'll pull them out, and I will start these again next summer on the towers. I really do like the calendula on the towers a lot, and the chamomile, it's just made harvesting really easy, and they're just so beautiful and so simple, this way to come out and have a harvest without having to get dirty and buggy and bend over in the garden and all of those things. All right, and here I'm at a different tower, and this tower has a couple of herbs on it. We have lots of basil. Now when your basil starts to flower, you want to try and pop the top. So I'll add this to my dinner tonight. I eat basil and everything. I think because it's a grocery store, oh, peas got too mature. Because, you know, we think of basil from the grocery store making pesto and things like that, but I will eat handfuls of it, almost like lettuce. So definitely harvest your basil and eat it frequently. And the thing with basil, you want to make sure it's big enough before you put it in the tower. I have found if you put basil in the tower too early, it will just rot and not do well. So you want to make sure it's about 2.5 to 3 inches, the stem from the rock wool, and the leaves are no longer touching the rock wool before you put it into the tower. That's how I've had the most success, and I like to do 4 to 6 seeds. I didn't mention with parsley, I actually like to do 1 seed, sometimes 2. Some of mine are heavily seeded because I bought them from somebody else who uses a lot more seeds, and I have just found they do better if it's just 1 and I let it get to full maturity and then take it out and start over. But that's just preference. It's kind of, you know, there's no perfect science to this, so whatever you prefer. But those are some of the things I have found works. Now up here, this is lavender, and I'm super excited about the lavender. It smells so amazing. I like to use lavender in recipes, so don't underestimate the lavender, especially for like fruit smoothies and things like that, or nice cream made with bananas, just to give it a really unique, beautiful flavor. Now they grow slow, and so herbs are going to be different, and not all herbs. I kind of classify herbs into food herbs and then just herbs or medicinal herbs. Lavender falls more in the medicinal herb family, and that's a slower growing, longer haul thing. So I can come and take a few leaves as I want them. Eventually this will get so big that I'll either want to cut some of it back, and that might be when I manage some of the roots. I don't do a lot of root management on my towers, and root management is when you pull the plant out and you cut some of the roots and prune back the plant so that continue to grow. Lavender would be a plant you could do that with, as well as rosemary, because they are longer duration herbs. So, and what I mean by that is something like a dill. You're going to plant the dill, it's going to be amazing, and then it's going to want to go to seed and flower, and it's going to kind of burn out. These will eventually flower and get to that point. Don't really know what that is yet because I'm new to these. My guess is that we can manage this more like a perennial type plant, and I will keep you guys posted as I have more experience with these two. But so far they're doing amazing. They're both growing pretty slow, but it's still worth it. The rosemary is growing faster than the lavender, but I put them in at the same time and they were the same size. But it's just so nice to be able to come out here, harvest some rosemary. Rosemary is amazing for health support purposes as well. You can put it in your bath. Really, really, really great herb to have on hand. And like all my videos, it's getting dark again. And there's a storm coming. But we'll do the best we can. So on this tower is kind of a mess. I grew greens to show a video on how to maximize the amount of greens you can grow on a tower. This is a home unit and it has a baby greens extension on top. We went out of town. I didn't have new starts. So I cut everything and let it grow back. And I have found it did grow back, but it's never as pretty. I think that's one of the reasons why I don't like that approach to things. Just some didn't come back and they don't look as healthy to me when I do that. So I prefer just a new start and everything looks clean and I can tidy up the tower. But that's why this one looks a little bit raggedy. And this one's getting turned over. A lot of this is going to be juiced again, where I bulk juice and put juice in the freezer. And then I am setting up, and I have a lot of new starts, but some of this will continue to stay because I never want to have a tower that's all brand new young things because it just takes so long for everything to get going. I like to keep plants in all different growth stages so that we always have food. That is a trick to making sure you always have food. So in here we have Swiss chard I'll thin this out and clean it up a little bit, but I have more of that large leaf parsley. This right here is dock sorrel. This is a biannual, I believe. Don't hold me to that. I'm pretty sure it's biannual. This is another one where you're going to be able to keep it in this tower for a really long time, but you might want to manage the roots. They actually kind of branch off and start to develop extra plants in there. So it's one that spreads from the root base and just creates more plants on its own. So what I plan to do with these is pull it out, thin it, and then put them back in. I don't want to restart this from seed because it can take a while. So that's how I plan to manage this. I've grown this in my gardens for years. I actually grow the green version and they're great for salads. Really amazing to add to a vegan or vegetarian pizza or any pizza really. But they're just really great flavor. And with this one, there is one variety that's green and the green one is super, super lemony. And this one I find tastes more like a lime. Super potent right now because of the heat, but very much like a lime. Very bitter right now. A little bit bitter, more bitter than the ones in my gardens. Yeah, for some reason this one's really, really bitter. It might be more cold sensitive. So some plants, and I ate off of this 2 weeks ago and it did not taste this bitter at all. It tastes very much like a lime. Right now it tastes like you're eating the rind of a lime, which is pretty bitter and limey. So some plants are sensitive to heat and will do that, but then they'll change back as it cools. So I will let you guys know if this changes back. I will still eat it, of course. It's amazing, and bitters are really, really, really good for your health. But kale's a great example of that. Kale right now in my garden's very earthy and aromatic. Kale in the fall gardens when it's colder is actually sweet and has a whole different flavor. I love them both, but just know temperature can change the taste of things. So we have parsley on here. We have cilantro on here that's wanting to bolt. It's just too hot for cilantro. I'm actually going to be putting new cilantro starts in. But like I mentioned, this is one you could take out, break it apart, and plant a little piece back in to keep this going. We talked about parsley. With basil, you can actually break off a piece of basil and put it in water and propagate it that way, and it will grow roots. I just find healthier plants come from starting those from seeds. So just trying to give you guys an idea of where you can propagate and where it's best to just start from seed. The other herbs on this tower, there's arugula. I don't think arugula is an herb. This is some purple basil. I don't know if this is the Thai basil or I went and grabbed my seeds, or if it's the Genevieve Red Freddy. I think this one's the Thai basil because the leaves are smaller. This one tends to be a little bit larger plant. I have them both on my garden. To me, they look very similar. This one tends to have a little bit more green speckles in it sometimes and is a little larger leaf. So that's the only herbs on this tower. Let's go on a hunt. I know I have more lavender. Oh, I know one that's on here. Okay, and there's two more herbs on here. On here I have oregano, and oregano grows great on a tower. It's a trailing vine, so you can kind of work it into, you can put it in the baby green section and let it trail down. I have it in one of the baby green sections down here, pretty low. When I rebuilt this tower, I actually put grow ports here and a baby green section there by accident, and it's fine. And then under it, I have some more dill that's growing. If I want dill quick, I will plant 4 or 8 seeds or so, and that allows it to come up really quickly. And then I try to harvest off of 6 or 5 of those seeds and leave 1 or 2 alone and let those become the main dill plant. I find 1 seed and just let it become full grown, because then you're able to harvest cups of dill. And I use cups of dill in recipes like falafel and all sorts of things. I'm a huge fan of dill. And when I do more than 1 seed, I have found it tends to stunt the growth of the dill. So it's just a matter of, do I need dill really quickly? If I do, I will plant more than 1 seed and let some of those come up. Eat a few of them as almost like baby greens and eat off of those smaller dill, and then I'll pull those out and just let the 1 dill be the shining star. So that's an option with dill. Dill in my area is about 4 months before it's time to pull it out and start over. So that is typically one that I'm starting the seeds every month, every 2 months at a max, because if not, what will happen is you'll be swimming in dill and you'll think, I don't need any more dill, I'm not going to start any seeds. And then just like that, your dill plant will decide to go to flower. You'll have to harvest it and you won't have anything to take its place or anything that's mature enough to start actually feeding you if you want to eat handfuls of dill at a time. So just be mindful of that. Oregano, this is the first time I've grown oregano on the towers. It's doing great. I predict it's going to be kind of like the lavender. It's a perennial plant in the right climates. So I plan to just manage it, trim the roots and trim it up. I don't want a giant oregano plant ever in my tower, but I want to be able to eat a lot of oregano. So my plan is to have 3 or 4 of these. I already have 3 or 4 in the towers. And then what I do is come and harvest big chunks of this, not the whole thing, because I don't want to stress it too much. I always say only take about 1/3 of a plant at a time to avoid stressing it out. So I'll come take a big chunk and I like to juice it. It's amazing. In your juice, you would think it'd be super hot. It's not hot, and it's really great medicine. The other thing I want to mention with the dock sorrel, this is high in acylic, I think oxalic, the name on the screen. I can't remember how to say it. Oxalic acid. I believe it's the same thing that spinach has. So people say if you eat too much spinach, it can make you sick. You can have kidney stones. This is high in that. So this is not one you want to go to town devouring. It's also so potent you couldn't anyway. But just be mindful of that. They say this isn't super safe for pregnant women or for young children. But again, they would have to eat a large amount of it. A little bit of a sprinkle on a pizza, definitely not harmful that way. But just be mindful. Don't go taking handfuls of your dock sorrel and juicing it. That would not be a healthy choice. All right, and most everything else on my towers are repeats. There's lots of basil. So some of the new things I'm going to be adding, lots of basil and things like that. Some of the new things I'm going to be adding tomorrow. Let me show you what those are, and then we'll talk about some seeds that I'm starting as well. So on this tray here, I have a few things really excited about. One is stinging nettle. So this is stinging nettle. It's actually stinging me as I touch it. I have 8 of those. Stinging nettle grows wild here, and I like to do a wild harvest of stinging nettle because it's known to have these roots that pull out minerals deep in the earth. It's very, very mineral dense food. So it also is really, really helpful with allergies. And because it has the stinging on it, most people wear gloves, and then you're gonna boil it and then you use it. And so I use it to make pestos. You can juice it, I can make teas, all sorts of things. It can be used for all sorts of things. I actually like it for pain management too. An old trick is you could take some, and if you were having like some arthritis pain or something, whack it on that area. It's the same chemical that's in bees when they sting you is what is on the little stingers on stinging nettle. So total preference if you like to, you know, torture yourself with stinging nettle. But this is amazing food. The reason I'm growing it on the towers and not just wild harvesting, I just haven't had a lot of time to go wild harvesting for it this year. And the easy spots where I know it's growing so I don't have to go on a hunt for it are close to the road, which can offer some contaminants. So I just want to see the taste, and if it seems to have that same high mineral content grown on a tower, because we're giving these plants all the minerals that they need, and it's just really efficient at absorbing minerals and putting them into leaves that then become food. So my hope is that it's going to be really efficient at absorbing the minerals we put into the tower, and then we get all those minerals into our bodies that way. Some plants are just really good at that, and stinging nettle is one. And here I have thyme. There's all sorts of different varieties of thyme. Any thyme can grow on a tower. I have lemon thyme. I don't even know the names of all the thymes I have. And thyme is the same. You can juice it. It's amazing in recipes, and I'm going to treat it like oregano, where I'm just going to see if trimming it back and managing the roots will allow it to stay alive for a really long time. And with thyme and oregano, you could do a couple of seeds. I wouldn't overseed it too much. This one actually has quite a few seeds in it, and I plan to break it apart into 3 plants. I have found that with herbs, just give them a little bit of space. If they're an herb that's going to be there for a really long time, you can get away with just 1 seed. If you want to make sure you have success starting your seeds and you don't have to start again, you could do like 5 seeds, and that's fine. But the other things in here, I have cilantro. So cilantro this time of year, it wants to bolt. This is one where I am cutting it and letting it grow back right now just to keep it from bolting. All of mine did bolt. So I've got some new starts here. In the summer, I like to heavily seed cilantro and treat it more like a baby green because it wants to bolt so fast. In the winter, I like to do 1 seed and let it just be one amazing cilantro plant, maybe 2 or 3 at the most. So that's just kind of how I manage plants in the summer versus in the winter. There's some pepper plants in here because I want to get my winter pepper plants going. Basil, this again is the purple basil and the regular basil, and you can see these have nice long stems, so they're ready to go into the tower. I also have lemon balm. Lemon balm, it can get really big and really cumbersome, so that is when you're going to want to manage just like the oregano or the thyme. I feel the same way about the amount of seeds too. I would keep it light, you know, no more than 4 typically for something like that, and eat off of it. I love to put lemon balm in my salads. It's the most amazing flavor. You can make teas with it. You can boil it on the stove to make your house smell good, like a potpourri with your lavender. Those 2 together and some basil, that would be an amazing smell to introduce to your home. So definitely growing lemon balm. I have some dill in here, and I have some watercress. So watercress is really, really healthy, full of antioxidants, really good for you. And if you get your watercress going, it's pretty delicate to start. The seeds are microscopic, but if you can get it healthy, then you can propagate off of that, meaning you can take a little piece, break it off, and I stick it immediately into rock wool and right into the tower, and that's how I keep my watercress plants going. And I have a reel on that if you want to go back and watch a video and see how I do that. I think that's it in here. Parsley, cilantro, nettle, dill, lemon balm, and thyme, and basil. All right, and this one here, and now that I am looking at it, I think chives are an herb. Are chives an herb? I don't know if chives are an herb, but I'm completely obsessed with chives lately. So I have 4 more of those plants going in, and then this right here is another cress, but it's a little bit different. This one's, I believe, called peppery cress, and super earthy. Watercress is going to be earthy and have a little spice to it, but it's more of a succulent-y type of plant, where this one, to me, it reminds me almost like cilantro when it's going to seed, and it's peppery. So very, very peppery, but not in a spicy way. It's actually really good. I like it a lot because it's peppery with I don't know, almost like, I don't want to say minty, almost like chervil, which is another herb I want to talk about, where it has a little bit of a licorice kick to it. So really good. So those are the plants I have to put in. And before it gets too dark, let's talk seeds. So one is chervil, and I didn't bring those seeds out. Chervil is in the parsley family. Grows amazing. I like to do 1 to 3 seeds. It's going to grow like a parsley. At some point, you're going to want to pull it out and start again, just like you would a parsley. It tends to grow better for me when I'm growing indoors in the winter. I don't know why I didn't have a lot of success with it outside in the garden. When I grew it in Florida, it loved the heat, but here it just hasn't been great. So working on more of those seeds, but if you're growing indoors, chervil has always done incredible for me inside, and I just love it. It tastes like licorice, very unique, really, really healthy. All right, here's our Genevieve basil. If you like purple basil, chives. Hey, I put chives. This is how I store my seeds. Nothing fancy. I put them in the herbs bag. So in my brain, chive is an herb. We've got our chamomile, lavage. I'm not a super huge fan of lavage. That's what it looks like if you want to see it. So I don't grow this a lot. It's in the celery family, and I really like celery, so I just kind of stick to that. But that is an option for the tower. There's oregano seeds in here. Borage. Borage is a flowering herb. The stems, people say, taste a little bit like a celery. I don't grow this one in the tower. It's too big. It's hairy with has little hairs on it. It's great for the in-ground gardens. I would not do borage in a tower. I just think it's too big. Sage is another one I'm not super excited about. They have just stayed kind of leggy. I'm not giving up. I am going to start this again for my fall gardens. I did harvest sage leaves, but it just never got super lush like I was hoping it would. I'm actually going to try more seeds this time and see if maybe doing like 10 seeds helps it to fill out. There's lavender in here, Thai basil, the calendula seeds, and I showed you guys the calendula. This basil right here is a lettuce leaf basil. This is from rareseeds.com. These get these giant leaves on them. They do great in the tower. I've grown it a few times. It's a little different texture and flavor, but if you wanted to make like a basil wrap, like a lettuce wrap, but using a basil leaf, this is great. It's fun to grow for sure, and is definitely, you know, a statement piece when you're making meals for people because they're not used to seeing it. And I like to grow things like that for that purpose too, just like branch our taste buds and our experience with food out a little bit. This one's amazing. This one's King of the Bitters. This is medicine for that thing that happened in 2020. There were some studies done, and this was very, very effective on that. King of the Bitters, I start these quite a bit, grow them in the baby green section, harvest them, eat them, start over, turn it over almost like you would a green. Coriander, which is our cilantro. So if you let it go to seed, it becomes coriander. So this one's prone to going to seed, so you can get the coriander. There are slow bolt varieties. There's all sorts of, there's lemon variety, there's dwarf variety, there's all sorts of varieties of cilantro you can grow. St. John's wort, this one I haven't tried on the tower, but I'm going to try. The thing with this one is it can get a little bit taller, so I don't know if it's going to be worth the real estate. I'll have to see how that works out, and I'll keep you guys posted. Great medicinal plant. A lot of people use this. If it's something you use frequently and wanted to grow your own, like the chamomile we use frequently, then I will keep you guys posted on how it does in the towers. I predict it'll be fine. based on the nature of this, it's just a matter of how much space it's going to take up. And you can prune these and they will still fruit. Some things you can't prune until they get to a certain size, where this one you can kind of shape it a little bit and get it to be more of the shape you want. Like basil, down the stem of the basil and find where it's got more leaves poking out, and if you harvest it there, it'll kind of split and get bushy. Same idea with St. John's wort, German chamomile, Roman chamomile, all the chamomiles. This one's great. This one, Tong Ho. Tong Ho is a great herb. You can eat the flowers. The leaves are really tasty. This is great for skin health, full of antioxidants, just a superfood, and definitely worth growing. It's bigger. So keep in mind, this is like growing a dwarf tomato. So you have to decide if it's worth it to take up the real estate on your tower. And with all of these, I think there is a romantic appeal to grow herbs, but make sure you have a plan and you're going to eat those herbs. We don't want to just fill a tower with something that's going to grow massive and then we don't end up using it. But really a big fan of this one right here. Horehound. Horehound is in the peppermint family. I do not grow peppermint in my towers. I think peppermint grows too easy in a pot that I wouldn't give the real estate to it, and it just kind of grows wild here. So I don't put that in my towers. There's also a root management issue with peppermint. But horehound is in the peppermint family. It's an expectorant, really good for colds, respiratory things. And it's a little bit more succulent-y and larger and really nice in bouquets in the house. And I just prefer horehound over peppermint. Elecamp, that is not for the tower. This is very large, unruly. I wouldn't do this one in the tower. Again, I can't seem to make a video when it's not dark. It's because I go to the gym in the evenings and it's too hot in the day. So thanks for hanging out with me at night in all my videos. I appreciate it. Marjoram. Marjoram is like an oregano. I believe it's in the oregano family. And super amazing medicinal purposes for marjoram. Really, really love marjoram. I would grow it just like I mentioned. Oregano, stevia. Definitely grow stevia if you like to add stevia to sweeten things up. And I just harvest the leaves and put it right in my teas. I like to do a tea with stevia and anise hyssop. And anise hyssop is also in the peppermint family, so the leaves are pepperminty and the flower is sweet. And then if you add just a tiny bit of stevia, it's like a super sweet, pepperminty, delicious, amazing tea. Now, I would not grow anise hyssop in a tower. I've never tried, but anise hyssop is like a bush. And anything that's going to get big and bushy, and it actually needs to be a pretty significant size to start flowering, it wouldn't be worth the real estate it would take up in the tower. But you can grow that one in a pot or in your landscaping. Oregano, we have oregano seeds, all the parsleys. I'm always growing parsley. You guys have seen me talk and use and discuss parsley quite a bit. Chrysanthemums. And that's it. We made it to the end of the seeds that I plan to start and the things that are growing on the tower and the new seedlings I have to put into the towers. And I just wanted to give you guys some ideas, because I do get questions about herbs, on some herbs you can grow in your tower, some of the reasons why I grow some of these. There's great medicinal purposes to herbs, and the real benefit comes from actually using them and eating them in larger amounts, depending on what they are, because some are not safe in large amounts. But there's all sorts of books out there you can get, and if you're wanting to work on a health struggle, like I'm working on skin this year for my health, I can grow specific things, and I mentioned some of those, and those are greens I'm juicing. Another one that's really good for skin health is plantain, and that grows wild everywhere in our yard, so I don't grow that in the towers, but you could. A lot of people like to grow dandelion greens in their tower. Just be mindful, dandelion greens are a taproot, so just be mindful of the root system of a dandelion green. That's not one you're going to want to keep in there forever, because the root would just get really, really cumbersome inside the tank. And the more you grow them and the more experience you have with them, the more fun it becomes to really add them in larger amounts to your diet, like handful of basils to my pasta tonight. And basil can be really great at calming the central nervous system and being relaxing, plus all the other benefits it offers. So I do highly recommend growing herbs on your tower. They are easy and so rewarding, so beautiful. Thanks for joining me, guys. I will see you on the next video.